My guest today is Kara Swisher. She is an incredibly brilliant journalist and person. She's the host of On Podcast, On with Kara Swisher. She's also the co-host of Pivot Podcast. And I am kind of obsessed with her no-nonsense delivery, which often includes her sense of humor, which is so infectious. I just can't stop listening. So, Kara breaks down everything in a way that makes the least informed feel like they can fully grasp and know what matters in tech and in business. She's also a mom to 4 kids, and I love when she drops little bits about her children on her podcast. It's very, very sweet. So, I'm so excited that she said yes to being on my pod, and I'm doing this intro before she gets here so that I don't waste her time because she can be a little bit scary. And yeah, so stay tuned because you're about to hear from Kara Swisher. Oh
Right.
my God, I can hear you now. So Kara Swisher's with me. And I said to you when we were recording that it didn't work. Anyway, I
Mm-hmm.
saved you the preamble because I'd heard you on another show and you were like, please don't take the time to talk and just get into it. So
Yeah,
you don't
right.
have,
Yeah.
but
Thank you.
now you're not going to hear me say like all the nice things about you.
That's okay. As
Okay,
long
good.
as they're accurate, I'm fine with it.
They were, yeah, it was accurate. It was good.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Kara, we're recording this at night.
Yeah,
I know you have had a crazy day. I
I
need to
have.
understand what a day in a life, your life looks like, because
Oh,
I can't get over you. Like the fact that we're recording this so late.
yeah. Well, it was a busy day because of Bob Iger going to Disney.
Yeah.
I have a pretty good relationship with him, and I've
Hmm.
interviewed him twice in the last year. Once in January when he left Disney for good,
Hmm.
in a live interview in Richmond, and then another time at my code conference just happened. And so both times I really pressed him on leaving Disney and whether he was going to come back.
Yeah.
And he said it was ridiculous and that he had given in his ID and everything else. And I was like, well, I think you're gonna go back. I think you wanna go back." And he, of course, denied it,
Yeah.
and then this happened, and so everybody was like, "How did you know?" And I was like, "I just felt like he wasn't done yet."
Yeah.
And
You got that sense.
yeah, well, he didn't like the person he picked to take over for him.
Right. I also think the tell that he said to you, he gave back his ID. Like, I don't
Yeah,
believe that. People
yeah.
don't walk in and hand back their ID.
Well, that might have not been true. I think he was being metaphorical, but I think he was very much, he was doing investing and he was doing some other things. I think he was bored, and I
Yeah.
think he's got a lot more juice in him. And that was my feeling. And that's why I kept asking him that question, not to be irritating, because I really had a sense that maybe he had a couple more in him. So
Yeah.
I was on a lot of TV talking about what happened, CNBC, CNN, and stuff like that. And then we were just prepping for our interviews to come.
Yeah.
We had today, we published Eric Idle, which was a great interview. And then I was getting ready for an interview I'm doing next week with a pretty top Twitter executive who left, Yoel Roth. And so I was prepping that and figuring out how to do it. It's going to be live in Miami. And
Oh,
then
wow.
we had Pivot. We had Pivot recording, which was extra long today because of all the news between Twitter and Disney. So I taped that and then did some more TV and
Yeah.
then prepped some more interviews we're going to be doing on both Pivot and on with Kara Swisher.
But you were also on the West Coast for the L Word premiere, and then you were
That was
back
last
east.
week.
Okay,
That
so
was
that
last
was last week, and then you
Yeah.
were in DC for
Yeah.
CBS because I
Yeah, on
watched
Face
it.
to Nason.
Uh huh.
Yeah, and I did Chris Wallace's show and stuff like that. You have to market your show, and people ask for interviews, and it's really good for getting people to listen to the podcast. And so I tend to say yes to people I respect. But I was in DC, in San Francisco, to visit the Silicon Valley Archive. It's a
Okay.
technology archive that
Hmm.
I'm thinking of giving some things to, and I was doing an event for them
What
talking
would you
about.
give them?
Oh, I have notes from all the major figures in technology at the
Wow.
beginning, and
Yeah.
I have early business plans of a lot of people.
So
I was
cool.
there at the
Yeah.
beginning, so
Yeah.
I have those. And then a friend of mine, Jennifer Beals, was on the L Word, and she was
She's
premiering it. She's
fantastic.
great.
Oh, yeah.
She and the creator of the L Word, Eileen Chaikin, uh, were there, and I interviewed them at the Castro Theater. So
I had interviewed her a couple years back, and I was struck by how serious she was
she is.
and how smart she is.
Well,
And
she got into Yale,
yeah.
and I didn't. So yeah,
Well,
so
I didn't apply. I went to
yeah.
Tufts. That was my
Yeah.
reach. There was
Well,
no, I was hopeful, praying I got in. It was
yeah.
at the last in April. I was in
Yeah.
April get in, not in early.
Yeah.
Just I was deferred.
Yeah.
That college thing, which you have
That was
kids, so
100 years ago, so I don't really remember. I went to Georgetown and Columbia. But, anyway, she was great, and we did that. and then, of course, my kids. We had my kids all weekend, and I'm working on my book, so just
Oh,
a lot of stuff. So,
yeah. And you just don't. So your energy level, it's like it
yeah.
stays pretty up. Like how
Yeah.
how how much are you like a Trump sleeper? Do you sleep 4 hours a
I'm
night?
gonna
Like,
have to.
yeah.
My son's I'm meeting one of my son's girlfriends for the first time. She's coming in from Texas. They met this summer on a program on a politics thing that they did in Amsterdam. And so she's coming in for dinner, and then they're going off with my ex-wife to Thanksgiving. And we're going up to my wife's family in Boston with little kids.
Yes.
So we're splitting it's we do this all the time, but so we're having her over for dinner to meet her for the first time. So
That's
that's
really
kind of fun.
sweet.
I
Yeah.
think she's lovely. She seems great. She happens to be Miss Teen Petite Texas.
That's
I
adorable.
was a little worried because I was like, "Oh God, Texas beauty queen." It turns out she's incredibly worked for Beto and abortion rights activist and this and that and debate champion. So I was like, "Phew, okay, I've
Yeah. I
got the
wonder if she met my nephew. Well, no, she's young. My nephew,
yeah."
Sam, my brother's son, Sam, worked for Beto and
I don't
also
know.
does a lot of abortion rights stuff. He's
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Mayday Health.
she's a very she's a I haven't met her yet. I'm excited to meet her, and
So
my
cute.
son is they're like a lovely they seem lovely, and he's very excited, and so we
That's
had to
really
set the table and, make it nice for her
make
and
it
stuff.
pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna
That's
cook tomorrow night before they
is that a
go.
good thing?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm not as good a cook as my oldest son. I wish he was here to be cooking, but I'm gonna cook tomorrow and make something nice for them.
Make it homey.
Yeah,
S-
yeah.
uh, So
We
you,
do
yeah,
most family dinners most night. We do dinners most nights, not every
that's
night.
that's always been important to you that
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I pretty much always worked from, well, there were like 5 years I did, and I mostly worked from home, but we never all ate at the same time.
Oh, no, we did that with
Yeah.
my older boys and also, these kids, the younger kids.
Yeah. You grew up, you were born around me, and you
Yeah.
lived in my house at one point,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
Explain, so
apparently.
explain,
Well, it
because
was my
Brian, I
house
looked,
first.
this is what I heard.
Yeah.
I looked at my messages, my brother and sister, with my brother, and I looked
Yeah.
back and he sent this, I guess like a year ago, maybe,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
a picture of like a gatehouse.
Yeah, the
When did you
gatehouse.
live there?
Well, when I was born in Philadelphia and lived there for a very short amount of time
Yeah.
and in Haddonfield, New Jersey, and then my dad got a was in the Navy, and they got a house, a little house up in, Roslyn Harbor while he was still in the Navy, and, was working he must have been working at some facility up there, and he, it was a gatehouse on an estate. It was this beautiful mansion. We had the gatehouse, and, he wasn't making a lot of money, and he was a young doctor with 3 kids,
Yeah.
and, the Navy had put him through college. He didn't have enough money to do that and put him through college and medical school, and so, he was getting out. He just bought a house around the corner on Montrose Court, actually,
Yeah.
of all things, and, and so we were living in this rental house there, and he had a cerebral hemorrhage, and didn't die there. And just to tell you, there was no ghost there.
That's okay.
And he was taken away to the hospital and died several weeks later.
Yeah.
So
I've heard
yeah.
you talk about your
Hmm.
father's death. First of all, I'm sorry. It's
No,
just I
thank
know
you.
it was a
It's a
long
long
time, but
time ago.
it
Yeah,
lives in you. And you've talked about that sort of being a defining moment for you,
100%.
of course, because
Yeah,
you lose your parent.
yeah,
That's not supposed to
yeah.
happen.
No.
But I've heard you talk about it a few times.
Hmm.
And at one point you said, I'm not death obsessed, I'm death aware. And
Yeah.
then the next time I heard you say in an interview about it, you said you were death obsessed like a year later.
Well,
So which does it go in and out?
death aware. No, I mean, I'm not death obsessed. I'm just aware. I'm just
Yeah.
constantly aware of it. And I suppose people would find that. I mean, I think about whenever I don't want to do something, I go, "Oh, I'll be dead, in 50 years. It's fine." I mean, when I do things, I don't worry as much as other people because I'm quite aware
Yeah.
that death could happen at any time.
It's
And
a
when it happens,
possibility. Yeah.
yeah, and when it happens in that really quick way, you certainly get a sense that it could happen at any time. He was 34. He was just starting his life. He had 3 kids,
Yeah.
just got his first big job, started to make some money. He'd worked all his life to get where he was, and 34, that was the end of it for him. So,
But you also said that because I think two different things can happen. You were so
mhm,
young
yeah,
that you talked about sort of, and I heard you talk about this almost maybe it's a fearlessness, like you just did what you wanted to do, like
yeah,
you just did the things that you thought you wanted to do without
yep,
sort of second guessing
yeah,
it,
yeah,
as opposed to like my mom died 15 years ago and
uh-huh.
I became paralyzed with fear and
Oh,
sort of
yeah,
that the fear, like death averse, sure, because who
Yeah.
wants to die, but like so terrified of all the things that could possibly kill me. So
Yeah.
I love your take on it that like
Well,
it could
you
happen.
know,
So why
just
do
a
things that would
piece
enhance
of
it and just, yeah,
information, you're not gonna avoid
right.
it.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, I
Oh,
just, people think they're gonna for some reason, they're gonna avoid it, and,
yeah,
um, I think it's really, I don't know I'm not gonna avoid it, and so, I think a lot about Steve Jobs. I think a lot
yeah,
of people
of course.
around me who, died early. I've had several friends, and of course, I was younger, a young gay person coming out during the AIDS crisis,
Yeah,
so I was quite aware.
everyone.
And so you have to be somewhat aware, but I think, I have, older kids and younger kids, but I'll never forget when my kid was, 3 or 4. My daughter right now knows me incredibly well.
Of course she
So
does.
well, yeah, but I don't remember my dad very much, right? I mean, I have bits and pieces, you have bits and
Yeah,
pieces of memories, but she knows me, and therefore I understand the devastation now because my kids knew me very well up until
yeah,
they were 5. And so um the impact was massive because
right.
I know it would be on them. And so I think about that a lot. Like you always sort of slough it off because, oh, I don't remember them or I was young, but it was significant, I think, in
Of
many
course,
ways.
of
Yeah.
course, it was significant, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that it kind of informed things about you that some you really and some
Uh-huh.
probably you don't because it's just
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, yes, 100%. And so it's really important to whenever I'm doing so it goes back to, like, I do what I want when I wanna do it because I'm
Yeah,
very aware of, death all the time. I'm always like, "Huh?" And of course, I had a stroke many
yeah. Well,
years
I was
ago.
going to ask you this. So at
Yeah,
34, so when you turned 34, was there
I
a
was
part
the
of you that was like, hip hip
yeah.
hooray, I got past
No.
that
Yeah.
age?
Yeah, I was a very significant age for me,
Yeah,
but I was always pressing forward, and that was what was, important to me,
yeah.
pressing forward, pressing forward, pressing forward,
And then you have
and
the
not getting
stroke.
letting things
Yeah.
bother me. Yeah, and then I had a stroke
Which the
after.
story of the stroke and your brother,
Mhm.
the doctor,
Yeah,
which of course in my head when I was listening to that
yeah,
and I'd read about you and your brother,
yeah.
I'm thinking, what does it feel like to be the failure in your family? Because
He's not, he's
no,
great.
you, because your
Yeah.
brother's the doctor.
Yeah, and I have also a brother who's a lawyer, who's great too. He's
Right.
really
Like in
nice.
our family, everyone, I'm like, I say to my son, I say to my daughter, why the two of you such losers? Like, why couldn't one of you be a doctor? It's just not
Oh,
fair.
you like a doctor, yeah.
Oh, I'm a Jew. Like, just give me one doctor. We have no doctors.
Oh, well,
Yeah, but you have yours. And so
yeah.
here you are having a stroke, which sounds, in all fairness, the way you talked
Mhm,
about it,
uh-huh.
and I want you to describe it, does sound like it could be a migraine or it could be a stroke.
Yeah, well, it was both. It was both.
Right.
So, I ended up, I ended up having a stroke, and it was significant. And actually, in December, I'm going in the hospital and having the hole, closed up that caused the stroke. I
Wow.
have a PFO. When I had the stroke, it was open heart surgery, and they kept saying it's minor open heart surgery, and I was like, nothing. There's nothing like that about open heart surgery. It's
That's
minor to
minor.
me.
Yeah. No.
And so now it's very easy. It's a 20-minute things,
Wow.
and it goes up your groin, I guess, and it's gonna
Yeah.
close. I have a hole in the
Like
heart.
through a catheter
I
almost.
guess, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's 20 minutes, literally. I leave
I
that
can't believe you
day.
said I don't know when you're like
Well, I
this
have a
incredible
vague
journalist
sense.
with
I
like
know, but
you
they
research
explained it. It goes through a hole. It goes to the hole, and it's like a leak. It's a leak is what it
and they'll
is.
close it up and you'll be
Yeah.
fine.
No, yeah, what actually, I could still have a stroke, but this is gonna prevent, more importantly, if there's blood seeping through into my brain all the time, even if it's small, and so they were like, "Well, in 20 years or so, you'll probably have vascular dementia," and I was like, "What?"
Well, who needs that? Yeah.
I said, "No, I don't
No.
think so." And
Right.
so, I'd rather avoid vascular dementia, and
You
so I'm gonna
think?
do this. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna avoid the vascular
Someone
dementia.
who uses her brain for a living too.
Yeah,
It might be
exactly.
better option
Yeah,
to
and
not
so
have that.
yeah, it still is an interesting thing because I definitely was affected by it. I lose words every now and then when I'm tired or stressed. I really did imprint on John Fetterman, especially the attacks he got.
Yeah, I saw that. I read what you had written and I think that was the right thing to say. I mean, when
Mhm,
he did the debate, I just first of all I just felt for him because
mhm,
we had Slick Oz and
yeah,
then And John Fetterman was just like in the hoodie. First of all, that's a guy after
Yeah.
my own heart. Like, give
Yeah.
me that hoodie and I'm
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it shouldn't diminish his capability or what we deem his capabilities are because
Yeah.
he can't necessarily get the words out as quickly as he once could. It doesn't mean that the
Yeah.
brain isn't active.
No, he was cognitively fine. I
Yeah.
did a hour-long interview with him, and that's what irritated me is people didn't understand. They're like, "Oh, he can't talk small talk." I'm like, "Oh, okay. He
Yeah.
can't. No, he can't. Neither could I."
Yeah. Also,
But
he
I
wants to. Right.
well, not to who wants to, but you can't. Everybody suddenly became a doctor, and the thing that was irritating is everyone is buying Republican talking points, and so,
Hmm.
and having gone through it, I'm like, this is not what's actually happening. I'm pretty certain this is what I went through, and so, I think a lot of people do this armchair thing, but it was a very cynical ploy by the Republican Party to make something of this, and of course, the voters, I was happily surprised, didn't buy it. But it was a difficult time when that happened to me, and I was very terrified of it happening again. I continue to be scared of it to this day because being disabled is really hard, and it was for me. And so I think I think the lack of kindness to him. And then, of course, his speech at the victory party was fine. It just
Yeah.
depends on
Of
any
course.
given day,
Yeah.
how you are, how quick you are, and how slow you are, etc.
But Kara, when it happened to you, and this was what
Huh?
say the things that happened, and then you called your brother.
Yeah, I was
This-
flying to Hong Kong to do an event, this code conference in Asia, code Asia D it was called. It wasn't code then, it was a D,
Mhm.
all things
All
digital.
things day, yeah.
It was at the Wall Street Journal at the time. And and I was on a plane and I was in coach because Rupert Murdoch is a cheap bastard. And I made a millions. I was like, "Why am I in coach?" And so I was sitting next to 2 people that were larger men, and I didn't get out of the seat. I was like, "Ugh, whatever." And I didn't drink enough water, and I didn't move around. And I got to Hong Kong. We're staying at the big hotel there, the Hyatt, Grand Hyatt. And I was in my room and writing a piece about Yahoo, and I started to get a headache. And then I started to get tingling in my fingers, which
Mm.
was weird. And then I said something out loud, and it came out mangled, mangled and messed up.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Huh." And I tried to eat a strawberry. It fell out of my mouth. That was weird,
Yeah.
on my one side. And so I couldn't call anybody, which was incredible. I just thought I was talk like that. And so I texted my brother, who's a doctor, and of course the time difference, he was asleep. And and then I went to breakfast. I showered and went to breakfast. And when I got upstairs, I was okay by then. I was able to speak, not well, but certainly much comprehensibly.
Yeah.
And so I ran into Walt and I said, "This is weird." And
Mossberg.
yes, Walt Mossberg.
Mossberger. Yeah.
And my brother called and he said, "Listen, I think you're having a stroke. Get to a hospital." And I said, "That's ridiculous. You're the worst doctor ever." I insulted him. And I said, "I'm too young. This is ridiculous." And he said, "Just do me the favor. Have an MRI, not a CAT scan.
Mm-hmm.
Get there. Trust me, it sounds like, and speed is most important when you're having a stroke."
Of
And
course.
I get to the hospital and I was having a stroke. That's what I was
Yeah.
having. And the only time I broke down is they wore masks in China, so you don't ever see anybody's face back then. And they continue to in hospitals. And when he told it to me, I thought about my dad, like, "Oh my
Yeah,
God, I'm
of
going to
course.
die and my kids are young and
Oh.
it's happening over and over again." And
Oh.
so I went in the hospital. I was fine rather quickly. They gave me the right drugs very quickly and I was fine. I was completely feeling well, and I had to be on medication for a while and then went off the medication, but now I'm going to do this to make sure I don't get it again.
And that's not like the kind of thing that you need a baby aspirin for because that could cause a bleed, right?
No, the
Or
baby
the
aspirin is
baby
what
is
you
good.
want.
Okay.
At the time, the new drugs at the time, things have progressed rather significantly,
Mm-hmm.
but at the time, you could either take warfarin, which is very hard
Yeah,
on your
of course.
body,
Yeah.
or you could take these other drugs that caused you to bleed, and so to declot, and so much
Yeah.
so they didn't. If you got in they were like, "Well, if you get in an
It's
accident, oh,
over.
you're in."
Right.
I was like, "What? I'm a
Right.
young person. I'm not sitting in a chair
That's
looking
not a
at a
great thing.
tree."
Yeah.
And so they were like, "Well, don't do any sports." I'm like, "What? I'm young. What do you I
Right.
run? I can't go
Uh,
running. No, don't do that. Don't go sailing. Don't." And I was like, "Oh, this is ridiculous." And so I went to see other doctors, and the Chinese doctors wanted to operate at the time. I did not want to have that surgery,
Of course.
especially there.
Of
And
course.
then I went to Stanford. I went to all kinds of places, and eventually I just went on a baby aspirin actually,
And that,
and
yeah,
and have been healthy. Been trying to be healthy. Low blood pressure,
yeah.
checked constantly,
Yeah,
and
well, you have
so
to.
yeah.
I take a baby aspirin because I have elevated LP little a. It's
Oh,
like so
okay.
there's always and that makes your blood kind of tacky.
Oh, does
So
it? Oh,
yeah,
yeah. There's a thing called Mediterranean blood. I think it's factor 2 or 3. That's what I
okay,
have. And
okay,
I found that out actually.
yeah,
Ann Wojcicki, who runs 23andMe, I had
yeah, sure.
written about them and had her at my conference, and she said, "I hope you don't mind I violated your medical records. They're not really records there, and you have this factor. I think it's factor 2
That's
Leiden."
incredible.
And she said, "You might wanna tell your doctors," and I did, and they're like, "Oh, oh," and they're like, "Oh, we can't give her
That,
this."
by the
So
way,
that
that's a
was good.
great power
Thanks, Ann.
play. By
I
the way,
know. Yes, you have
holy
that.
crap, that's insane.
Yeah, we had just done it with me. We were comparing me and Rupert Murdoch's,
Yeah,
DNA. Thank God we weren't related. That would have
no,
been
no,
even more devastating.
that would have been ugly.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm glad you're okay, and I hope that
yeah,
the PTSD after that whole thing wasn't
yeah.
too
Well,
awful.
I went and did more stuff. I created more companies. I did
Hmm.
Rico. I started podcasting.
Yep,
I ended up having more kids. I created all kinds of companies. I sold my companies.
it's pretty great.
I started all kinds of new things. So yeah, it was good for me to get
To
the
keep
let
moving,
out.
yeah, and keep
Yeah,
going. And
yeah,
that's like resilience. I think some people have it, and maybe it's
yep,
because you had to when you
yep,
lost your father at such a young age, and you
100%.
probably had to
Yep.
do for your mother because she couldn't really probably
Yeah.
mother the way that might have been the most
No,
effective at that
no,
moment.
no, in any
Yeah,
moment
right,
actually. But
right. Well,
anyway, yeah,
sometimes it's like that.
yeah, yeah,
But your podcast, I got to
yeah.
tell you, I love your delivery.
Thank you.
I don't
Thank you.
just love, first of all, I do love, let me just start with, I
All
love how
right.
prepared you are because
Thank you.
as somebody who was on the radio for many years until,
Mhm,
like 2 weeks ago,
mhm,
I would read every book. I still read every book. I watch
mhm,
every show. You see the screeners. Like
mhm.
you do the work if someone's
Sure,
going to show up at
sure.
your office,
Yeah,
right? At your
yeah,
home.
yeah.
But a lot of people don't. And
No, they
so
don't.
when I hear someone who does, I'm like tickled. So that's the first thing because I
Thank you.
love how much you know. I love
Thanks.
how much you know. That's
Yeah.
just right there, just so appealing. And then, Kara,
Mhm.
you're funny,
Oh, yeah.
like like sharp and direct, but never
Mhm.
mean. Like I
Yeah,
called you scary in my intro because I know you're
yeah.
scary,
I'm not
but you
scared.
never mean. And
Yeah,
you're just accurate. You're
yeah.
just not here to pussyfoot.
Mhm,
And I think because your accuracy is so on
mhm.
that like you can get away with like almost ultra directness and
Well,
then because you're
anyone
so
can get let me
funny.
just say,
Yeah,
anyone can get away with I try not to be respectful to people I'm interviewing unless they're disrespectful,
of
and then I
course.
go at them. And then I was just on Chris Cuomo's show tonight earlier, and, I gave him a pretty hard interview and he didn't look great. And he goes, I love you on here no matter what. I'm thankful for you for Thanksgiving. He's doing this Thanksgiving thing. I just want to say I'm thankful even though your attempted fleecing of me. And I said, attempted. It was quite successful,
Yeah.
Chris. And he goes, "You're right. You fleeced me." I said, "I didn't fleece you. I said, I got you to admit you were wrong." And
Right.
it was really funny because I think he appreciated it. I hate to say that, but I think smart people, no matter who they are, if I'm coming at them direct, they tend to be better about it than if I was being sneaky. I don't like
Yeah,
snarky reporters.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Just be direct because
Yeah.
what why be any other way?
Yep, yep, exactly. And so I think that helps me a lot. And so that's why I think I have so many good relationships with these people. I think they know I'm asking them very directly for what I want to know. And if
Yeah.
they don't have to answer, I press them, of course. But I think it's a relief because they're not getting, I'm not trying to, oh, some people say that this and that and this. And I'm always like, look, I think you're a jerk.
Yeah.
Is that right? Am I
Yeah.
wrong about this? And here's why I think you're a jerk. And I
Yeah.
explain it and I try to make my case. And also, when someone makes a case and I'm wrong, I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't think of it that way. I think people appreciate that too.
Yeah, yes, you could own it if
Yeah.
for whatever reason you're incorrect.
Yeah.
So does it frustrate you even more when someone like Elon Musk calls you an asshole
Yeah. I don't
when
care.
you weren't really being an asshole? Like,
Yeah, that irritated me because largely I've given him an indulgence for
yep,
some of his behavior, and I do think he's a visionary. But he was wrong, and he's just right now the way he's behaving. I have been tough on him now. I think now he's seeing,
Everybody is, yeah.
the opposite of what I used to behave like. And so I think it just irritated him. He's wrong. He's wrong. He's got all these lackeys around him and flying monkeys, and they tell him, they pet him all day and lick him up and down. And I find that
Gross.
distasteful.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
grotesque.
Yeah.
And we'll get into Twitter in a minute, but going back to your sense of humor, do you
Mm-hmm.
know that you're funny, and have you
Yes.
always known you're funny?
Yes, I was funny in grammar school. I was
Yeah.
funny in high school. It's a good way to deflect things,
Yes.
but I think it's, I try to be, I'm a little drier than most people, but I definitely, excuse me, I've had a cold for 7 years now since I had younger children, 3 or 4
That's
years
what
now.
happens. It's like, yeah, your
Yeah,
immunity gets tested.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I realize it. I realize I'm funny. I think a lot of reporters try to be very grave, and if I
Ugh,
have
it's exhausting.
if I have a funny thing to say, I will. It also helps break the ice in some ways. And one of the things that's interesting is that, like when Mark Zuckerberg was doing that sweating thing with me, when he sweat and he had to take off his
Hmm.
hoodie and stuff like that, I made a joke about the inside of his hoodie. I said, "Oh, finally we found the Illuminati." He had all these symbols inside. And I was doing that for a couple of reasons. One was to get the attention off of him because he was in such a state, and I don't want him to fall down, or I don't want him to be in distress when I'm interviewing him. And then
Yeah.
it was also to give him a minute to collect himself, and then also just for people to laugh. And when people laugh, everything, the stress level, he was clearly
It's
having anxiety
automatic.
attack,
Yeah.
that he had a minute just to take a breath. And I thought that was important for me to do for him. And it wasn't a particularly tough interview, so that was unfortunate for him. But
Yeah. The other way you can sort of get rid of somebody's defenses or drop
mhm,
their walls a bit is to
mhm.
exercise with them and talk. It's not as great
Yeah,
audio,
walking.
but
Yeah.
when you're walking with somebody, their
Yeah. I've
exertion,
walked with Mark. He used to insist,
yeah,
actually, when we met, but that was fine. Whatever
yeah,
he wants to
and
do.
then that makes them sort of the defenses
Yep.
kind of
Yep. Yep.
disappear. Why no
Yep.
Instagram for you and only Twitter?
Well, it might not be Twitter.
And
So,
not anymore. No, we
uh,
will
uh,
get to that because
I don't,
you are the only person I trust on that whole
oh,
thing. I'm just saying because I read and I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know, but why
I,
no
um,
Instagram?
I don't like how Facebook handles data. I
Okay.
think it's performative.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's awfully performative in a way I don't like. I'm not comfortable with it. And
Yeah.
so it's sort of a look at me. I had a joke with someone I used to go out with, that all the married couples, straight married couples, they used to come out and put pictures up with their hands in the air together, like they just won like a goal. You know how they put their hands
Oh,
up
I
as
know.
they're
It's why my
exiting?
husband is almost never on. And we do
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
anytime there's like an anniversary
yeah.
or birthday, I'll
But
literally be
wedding
like,
things, the
we
hands
are
up.
married. Right.
I'm
I'll be
like,
like,
"We've
today.
done it."
Yeah.
Fantastic. I
Yeah.
just find it irritating on every
Yes.
level. And so, and I don't wanna show, my wife has a private one for the kids, for the family, and
Of
that's
course.
fine. It's like if it's a photo album, it's fine. Otherwise, I get no enjoyment out of it. I do like, I love, TikTok,
It's
and
fun.
it's fun, and
Yeah.
I listen to ASMR sand cutting a
Oh,
lot.
come on. Okay. So I'll
Yeah.
admit that I like mukbang. I can't
I
believe I'm saying it, but
what which what that
mukbang.
what's that? I don't know
Oh
what
my
that is.
God, Kara, it's
Okay.
people eating copious amounts of food.
No,
And
I
it's
don't want that.
usually,
No,
no, no,
no.
it's so weird. And I don't know why. I think I do know why, because it's these very petite women.
Mhm.
And I want to know how they're doing it. Like
No,
I'm
no, I can't. No,
fascinating. Oh,
no, that feels like a weird part of Japan.
it's
No,
very weird and I'm
I know.
concerned, but I can't look
Yeah.
away. So
Oh, okay.
I can admit
Sand
this.
cutting is pretty clean. It's
It
just
is,
they
it's
cut
pretty clear.
sand. It's because it's chop, chop. The
Yeah.
noise of a knife on sand is, and I like, air fryer recipes, so I
Do
watch a
you
lot of
I do
food.
too. Do you post on TikTok or you
No,
just lurk?
no, no.
Okay.
I just and there's a lot of creative, funny people
Oh
on
yeah,
it.
it's so good.
Some of it's not. Some of it's sort of, mm,
You can learn anything. You can
yeah,
really
yeah,
learn anything,
I
which
think
is,
so, and that's fine. I like it. It's easier than, YouTube, so in that regard,
oh
and it's
my
kind of
gosh, so much
that you
easier than
just
YouTube.
discover, and that's what I
Yeah,
like about
and
it.
then hope that the
But I
algorithm,
don't use it that much. It's
yeah.
very addictive.
It's okay. I'm not gonna let people think that you are a TikTok addict.
I
I'm
don't
gonna
I spend more
protect you
time
here.
on Twitter, but
Yeah.
not
For
anymore.
now, you spend more
Yeah.
time on Twitter for now.
No, yeah.
Will you end up at Post?
Yeah, I
And
am at Post.
you
I'm
are,
doing
so I'm on
Post.
the wait list.
Oh, I'll get you
I'm
off.
okay,
I'll get
thank
you
you.
off. I'm
So
working with the entrepreneur. I've
oh,
never
I
done
didn't
this in my life. I
oh, I
love the
didn't know
guy who
that. Oh,
grounded
he's
it,
great.
Noam Barden. Yeah, he's an Israeli. He's
It
amazing.
looks exciting
I
to
knew him
me.
from Waze. Well
Yeah.
done, and we'll see. It's hard to build a social network, and I'm working with him to make sure it's I love Twitter, and that's why I'm working with
Yeah.
them, because it's the first time I saw something that could be a potential
Well,
competitor.
because Mastodon, I was like,
No,
Kara, I was like, no, no, no.
no,
I went
no,
over for a hot second, and I went
mhm,
no because it
no.
was confusing.
It's very confusing.
Just
You
make it
shouldn't
easy.
be. This is easy. This
Just make it easy.
you will see this and go, "Oh, that's how it should be."
I'm
And
very
so I've been
excited.
on all the
Yeah,
social networks over the years, and
of course
I
you
have
have.
like Twitter, but what Elon's doing to it is terrible. So I'm not
It's
interested.
really awful. I mean, we could
Yeah,
go there.
yeah.
It's sad to me because, like, look, he let Trump back, and that's
Well, he was
weird.
gonna do.
And
He said he was gonna do that. So
Kanye tweets shalom. Like,
yeah, I know. I
come
know.
on,
I know.
it's just
I
gross.
I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
When I tried to tell someone, I did something this last night. He did that one thing of someone having sex with someone, anal sex, with Twitter. You saw that. He had a tweet about that. And with Trump, he had Trump looking like Jesus, and then a woman with her butt in the air with a Twitter symbol on it, and it was so repulsive. And I thought, oh my God, that's gross. And then I thought, oh, he's 51 years old.
And he
How
acts like a teenage
well,
boy.
no,
Like,
no. I have teenage boys. They don't act
they don't
like
like,
that.
right. By the
No.
way, neither did mine. But
A badly
the
raised teenage
the
boy is what
trope
it
of
is.
that
Yeah, he's like
sort of,
American
yeah.
Pie. He's like
Right.
in an episode of American Pie. And
Right.
so I just was like, I kept saying to myself, he's 51 years old, and this is what he spends his time doing. And then he did an anti-gay one again
Yeah,
the
no,
other
that's
night.
I'm not,
He
it's
does
just
them all the time. So
it's
whatever. And he
especially
has
now.
he's a trans
Especially
kid.
now, like, knock it off. And
Yeah, he's a trans
yeah.
kid. He's a trans
I
kid.
was read about that, and
I
I
just can't even
feel
imagine it.
heartbroken for his daughter. Like,
Yeah,
how do you
I agree.
how it's how I mean, that's not loving your child. And he blames someone else. There was a whole thing where he was blaming Marxism, he said, for
Uh-huh.
his daughter's not talking to him, his
Right.
transgender daughter. Like,
My
what?
transgender daughter's not
Yeah,
talking because he's an asshole.
correct.
So
So, what is your favorite thing about you, and what's your least favorite thing about you?
me?
Yeah,
I like everything about me.
it's amazing.
I do. I kind of think.
That's a gift.
Um, I can be I can be rushed. I fit too much in a day. I make too much content, and so I don't spend enough time on niceties, I guess. I could
Hmm.
I don't think I'm particularly rude. It just I'm always thinking of the next thing, and
What you have to
so I
do.
can be very short. Like um if people like my 17-year-old tonight, he came late. I'm like, "You're late." And he started to argue with me. I said, "No, no, you're not arguing with me. You said you're gonna be here." You know what I mean? And I felt badly for a second. And I'm like, "No, I'm correct. He needs to learn how to show up on time for things." And so, but I could have been nicer, I guess, when I
Oh,
was
that's
doing
being
it.
a mutt. Please,
I wasn't yelling at him. I was just,
you've
I was
never
treating
called
him
your
like,
child a moron?
no.
That's really nice because I've called my kids morons,
Oh,
a-holes.
no,
I mean, we have had,
no,
and we're
no,
very,
no.
very, very, very tight, and because I know that it's just colloquialisms to me. It's
Yeah, no,
not.
that's the
Yeah.
Italian well, there's an Italian families do that too, but I don't like to denigrate my kids. I just really don't.
Well,
They
it's
have
not
life is
really
hard enough
my
for
sport,
kids.
but it's no.
Yes.
I only do it when it's more like, what do you have to be a moron? And it's
Yeah.
more with humor and love. It's not actual.
It's
Yeah,
fine. I'm sure you're a great parent.
yeah. I love those
Sometimes when
kids.
I'm
Yeah.
editing, my son's work, they joke about it. They use words like nice and good, and I go, "This means nothing." Like, I
Of
get really
course.
ma and
Fair.
sometimes when they turn it into me now, they happen to be very beautiful writers, both of them, and, um, they they show me something and they're like, "What do you think?" I go, "It's not very good." And they're like, "Mom, it's really good." I'm like, it's really
Not so
not."
good.
I
Yeah.
tell them the truth,
Of
and
course, you have to.
they don't like being edited by me because 'cause I'm like, "You could do better," kinda
Just
thing.
wait till they start editing you.
They won't edit me. They're not.
That started to happen with my son, and
Oh, really?
it's actually fun because I'm wordy, and I'll
Oh,
send him captions to fix, and he'll be
yeah.
like, "I'm not looking at this, mom, till you bring it down to 100 characters."
Oh, wow, good for
And I'm
him.
like,
Good for him.
"I hate you."
Yeah, my son does that with cooking. My son's a
Yeah,
beautiful chef, and he is
so
like, "You
great.
cannot cook, mom." And I'm actually not that bad, but in his eyes, I am.
But then you have such pride because he's so good.
He's so good. Oh my
Yeah.
god. He's
I
really
love
good cook.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your favorite gadget?
Oh, probably my iPhone, I would say. I like the AirPods, and right now I love the AirPod Max. I really enjoy it. I think it's a
The
really good
Is that the
product.
headset?
It is. It's really
Okay.
good. It's big, but
Mhm.
it's really it's beautifully done. Even my wife, who doesn't like gadgets, I was wearing. She borrowed it, and she's like, "Oh, I really like this," and she hates that she likes it.
Yeah. I
And
like
she
it
we
over
got
the
her we
air.
got her a
Yeah.
set, yeah,
Yeah.
and so probably my phone would be my favorite. I really like. I've just finally gotten it. I've had every Apple Watch, but I like the new one finally, so I'm wearing that regularly.
And
A lot
I
of the
like
Apple
the one
products.
before.
Yeah.
I didn't get the one this year, so you're saying I need the one this year, the new one.
Yeah, it's well done. It's the bigger crown and stuff like that. Finally, they've got it right, and so
Yeah.
I'm finding it useful
Okay.
now. If I don't find something useful, I stop using it.
Yeah.
What else do I like? I like a lot of I like my vacuum cleaner. I'm
You like
trying to think.
which one do you have? Dyson?
Ooh, no, I don't like
Okay.
the Dyson. They
Me
break
either.
down
Didn't
all
like
the
it. Broke
time. I
down.
have this. I don't know what kind it is, but it's great. It's a
Okay.
great
Well,
one.
that wasn't
Black
helpful
and
that you
Decker.
doesn't know.
Sorry,
Oh, it's Black and
Black and
Decker.
Decker. I guess Black and Decker. And then I like little gadgets for
Yeah.
food and stuff like
Me
that,
too.
little individualized gadgets. But I don't use a lot of my phone is what I use principally.
And you
And
book your own schedule, which I
I
find
do. I don't have
incredible.
assistant. I don't have
I
an
do too.
assistant.
That's
Yeah.
but your schedule is bananas.
It is, but then I have control of it, and then I can say
Right.
no. And I don't want someone in my business.
I'm
So
right there with you.
I had an assistant. He was great, but I just didn't. I don't find it any more helpful. I spend a lot of time explaining things to
I
the
was going to say
assistant.
exact, and you do it a certain way. If you're
I do it
precise in how you do
faster.
things, then
Yeah.
you just get it done and it's done.
Yeah.
You
So,
don't
yeah,
have to
I
think
tend to
anything.
do it. And then I can say no to people very
Sure.
easily, which I do a lot.
Yeah. Well, thank you for not saying no to me.
That's okay.
Chocolate Twizzlers
Your
or red
brother would have been
Twizzlers?
mad. What?
He would. He was really. He's not like that. If it was not going to work for you, he would have really
I
been okay
know, but
with
I
it.
don't like to. Your brother is a great guy. So
He is a great guy. He's a really
he is.
ethical,
I went to
good
visit his
person.
writer's room. They're doing the Sheryl Sandberg, Mark Zuckerberg thing.
Yeah.
So I was chit-chatting with him about that.
Yeah. He's really similarly to you. He's very direct.
Yeah.
He's no bullshit. He's
Yeah.
not a people pleaser
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
And he's a solid citizen.
Yeah.
Chocolate Twizzlers or red Twizzlers?
Red, obviously.
Have you had chocolate?
No,
Okay, so how do you know?
I don't think so. I think not.
They're really good.
All right, I'll
I don't
try
know.
them. I
They're
like
really,
any
really,
Twizzler then. Okay.
yeah, they're really delicious. Side
Uh-huh.
sleeper, back sleeper, or stomach sleeper?
Oh, side, probably. Side.
Okay, one pillow or two?
One big one.
Interesting.
Mm,
I'm two, always two. Do you
okay.
eat standing ever or only sitting? I'm going to say sitting because you have like family dinners.
Yeah, no, I don't stand and eat unless I'm like at the Pinks in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But I sit there too, I guess. Yeah, I sit
Cold water or room temperature?
cold.
I can't do cold water.
No, I like ice water actually.
I get too cold. My whole body just, but
Yeah.
maybe it's because I'm perimenopausal. So like my whole like temperature system
Uh-huh.
is not calibrating accurate,
Oh,
like
okay.
appropriately. Yeah, it's
All
not
right.
fun.
All
What
right.
do you put in your coffee?
Milk and a sugar.
Just one sugar?
Yeah, usually one or two. I've
That-
been cutting back. I've been cutting back.
Okay, my coffee is like candy in the morning.
Okay.
Like let me wake up and have some
Mine-
candy.
I have a small cup. I don't have that much coffee.
I have one giant cup a day, and it's like heaven. It's like I look forward to it when I go to
Oh,
sleep at
good.
night. Yeah. I know, it's like the little things. Like everything else could be falling apart, but I'm
Yeah,
like, but I get my coffee when I wake up.
yeah, yeah.
Do you have a go-to condiment?
Condiment. Salt, I guess, I suppose.
I like salt too,
I
right?
use a lot of salt. I shouldn't
Yeah.
use as much salt as I use, but my blood
Especially with
pressure
blood
is low.
pressure.
No, I have low blood pressure, so
Okay, that's good. Well, and you monitor it. So
yes, I
do you
do.
do the cuff every morning?
No, not every morning, but I get
Okay.
checked a lot.
I have the cuff in my closet.
Oh, really? That's too much for me.
I actually like the control of it. Like I
Is it?
like,
Okay.
yeah, because I can calm myself down then and then
All right.
retake it and be
Oh,
like,
good.
oh, it really does
I
work
have
to
very low blood
breathe.
pressure. I used to call me the corpse in college when I played sports.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it was quite low.
Do you use a bowl, a mug, or a plate the most? Like, will you eat like ice cream out of a mug or salad out of a mug, like, or
No,
a bowl or a plate?
a plate.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't eat a lot of ice cream. I don't like ice cream.
You're pretty traditional. No, I mean
Yeah.
like pasta. I'll put pasta in a mug.
Oh, no, I don't put anything in a mug. I put
Mugs are
coffee in
fun.
them.
Only
Okay.
coffee. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What's your
Yeah.
clothing uniform? I mean, I've seen a lot of
Same
black.
thing.
Right.
I wear a lot of joggers, and I've been stay-at-home worker for a long time. I've
Yeah.
worked from my house for a long time, and so I wear joggers and sweats
Right.
and t-shirts. I've done that.
Comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when I have to go out, I wear, black jeans and a jacket. That's it.
I believe that life is uncomfortable enough and our clothing doesn't have
I've
to be.
always dressed
Yeah.
very comfortably
Yeah,
since I was a
fair.
kid. And I have
As you
some of my
should.
clothes I've had since I was a kid. Some of they fit me still. And I wear my kids' clothes. I have all these t-shirts when they were 10 or 11 years old that fit me, and I wear them.
Who's your
proud.
favorite Peloton instructor, and why do you think it's only because the pandemic ended that the company had such struggle, or do you
No, it's
think it
just
was
people
something
get
else?
tired of things. No, people get tired of things after a while. That's just what happens.
Okay.
It's happened to every product, I think. Allie Love, I think
She's
she's left.
great.
She's amazing.
She's amazing. I
Mhm.
I
Allie
agree with
Love.
you. Yeah. And I like her. I like Jen Sherman. I
Mm.
like 80s music.
Yeah, oh, good.
Yeah, because I was born in 1970. I feel like the music that you had on during
Oh,
sort of your teenage years,
yeah.
at least for me,
Yeah,
but
I
not
don't
for you,
listen
because
to as
Allie
much
doesn't
music.
play a lot of like
She doesn't.
oldies
She
or
plays
whatever.
different things.
Yeah.
I'm not a big music person. As my wife was a music editor at one point. She knows every time a song comes on, she's like, "Oh, that's," and I'm like, "Who?" I'm not a particularly. I was more of a reader.
Yeah. Nonfiction or fiction?
Oh, magazines and news is
I
what I
like news
consume.
too. Yeah. I like real stories more than I
Yep.
like
Mhm.
the fake, because I like,
There's some I like. There's some
well,
fictional
no,
writers I like.
some fiction. Yeah, it has to
Not as
really
much.
take me away. It
Yeah.
has to really,
Yeah.
and I find when I read memoirs and stories of resilience, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, if they
Yeah.
could get through that, like it's
Yes.
sort of that
I'm working on
becomes,
a memoir right now.
oh, I like that. When's it going to
Yeah.
come out?
When I finish it.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, you could take
It
your
was
time.
due last year, but it's too bad for them.
I
Simon and
think they'll
Schuster.
wait. I think because I
They
think
are
the
waiting. I'm like,
yeah.
they were like trying to pressure me. They're like, Kara, and I'm like, what choice do you have? I don't know what to tell you.
Are you
I'm not.
surprised by your popularity now that like you've
No,
become sort of no, not at all.
no,
I
I'm
love this
really funny.
confidence.
Sorry, I'm really entertaining, and I make good content.
I
People
would
should
agree.
like
I
me.
agree with you, but I think
So,
it's rare for women to sort of own that, and
well,
I think it's refreshing.
well,
Yeah.
sorry. You
No,
should listen to me if you wanna have a great time. Like, all the interviews, like, it was interesting because I did most of the Elon interviews, which have been being used, and the
yeah.
Bob Iger ones today, they're like, "Why did you think to ask that?" I'm like, "'Cause I'm good at my job," like, and
Yeah.
you're not. Like, you had an
Right.
interview with him, you never asked him.
I've seen, by the way, I've
I've
seen you
seen
in interviews,
yeah.
Kara. Because I was, of course, and I want to ask how you prep for an interview, but
Mhm.
like I was watching a bunch of stuff and I saw you in some interviews, and your expressions are so good
Oh,
because
yeah.
like I'm watching like the interviewer and I'm saying to myself, what is he, does he not know? Like
Yeah.
I'm so confused at the things
Yeah.
he's saying to you. And then like
Yeah.
you answer and
Yeah.
he goes like in completely not with what you've said.
Yeah,
And
I
I,
know. That's what people do. They don't have
why?
conversations. I don't know. I had a good one with Chris Wallace the other day. He's a very talented
Yeah.
interviewer, I think.
Yeah.
We did
He's
one of
smart.
his talking with Chris Wallace.
I love that. And
Yeah.
so how do you prep for an interview?
When when I do my own interviews
Yeah.
or
When you, yeah, when you
I
have,
interview people, I read,
yeah,
and I have a great staff now. I used to do it without a lot of staff, and so we have a producer, we have an executive producer, Naima, and then
she's
they all
great.
came over from the New York Times, which is
Yeah.
interesting, and Blakeney, who both came over from the Times, and then we've hired some people, and so a particular producer, like this morning when we were talking about the one we're going to do next week, I go over the way I think about it, the way I think about it. I try not to prep too much because then you're sort of stuck in a conversation
Yeah.
versus where it goes.
Yeah.
But I like to know things. I like to understand things. I have them look for things they think is interesting, and then I look for things.
Yeah.
But I want to give my producers they are attuned to what I'm interested in, and then I give them things that I think are important. This is the 3 or 4 things, and then they build the interview around it. And we have a little map, and sometimes I go off the map a lot, and sometimes it's well done. Like we did one with Eric Idle that is wonderful today, and that
Yeah. It was
was
really good.
very well produced.
Yeah.
And then certain ones like we did the one on Elon Musk where we used all my many interviews with him, and I did that off the top of my head. I remember every interview, and so that was easy to do for me. A lot of these things because I live them, and I have thoughts about
Yeah.
him and others, whoever I cover, whether it's Bob Iger or Reed Hastings or Tim Cook or whatever. I've known them enough that I know what they're doing, and so I spend a lot of time helping readers or listeners, excuse me, the audience, give them insight. Even my tweets, I'm like, here's what's happening. Here's the 10
Yes.
things that are happening,
Yes. I
just
loved
so
when
you
you
know.
did that the other day with Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I did
Yeah.
it twice, and I was like, Listen, he don't think he's doing this for not for a purpose.
Right.
He's trying to jack the ratings essentially by being ridiculous." And then I'll often respond to inaccuracies or ridiculous things. Like today, one of the people who's working closely with Elon, who I know very well, Jason Calacanis. Well, the problem is I know these people really well, and they don't like that part of
Mm.
that.
Mm.
But he said, we're trying to pattern. He has a podcast called All In, and which David Sachs is also working with. Elon is on, and Chamath Palihapitiya, who I've interviewed many times. And so he's like, we pattern ourselves on the McLaughlin Group. And I was like, you're kidding me. I worked for the McLaughlin Group in its heyday when I was a kid,
Yeah.
when I was in my 20s. And he was a sexual harassing
Oh,
misogynist. And they, of course, didn't know that. Oh, we didn't know. I was like, let me like karma for you, because guess
yeah.
who? Your one of your big critics actually knows what it was like to work there. And so
Yeah.
same thing like with the stroke. I was like, here's what happened. Now, do you really want to pattern yourself after this guy?
Yeah.
Or should we
Yeah.
just all move along and let him have, ruin people's lives the way he did? And so I like to really, I don't like when people lie to people, and I like to
Right.
point it out. I don't, and especially powerful people. They often either try to bully people into their side, or they try to be irresistible. And when they're lying, I just go, it makes me
But you
crazy.
could also smell it.
Yeah. Well, some people, I think some people are very effective. I mean, look, Elon's lost a real brand here in his behavior. He's lost a lot of fans, I'll tell you. He's
He's,
gained some, but
yeah.
they're lesser. They're lesser than fans, I'll be
I
honest with you.
wonder how his mother feels about it. I've talked to her before. I wonder
I
if this
think
is,
she's fine with it.
yeah. I guess I know you would turn in your kid if they misbehaved.
I would. I would.
Yeah.
I said that. I've interviewed his mother. She got
Yeah.
mad at me because that I was mean to him about the COVID. I wrote a column about COVID, saying he should not treat workers like this. At the time, we didn't know a lot about COVID,
Yeah.
and he was wrong about everything in the end.
Yeah.
And at the time, I wrote a column, and she started tweeting at me. I should have never spoken to you, Kara Swisher. I'm like, literally, your son is an asshole on this. You might want to say something to him, but she was on his side.
Yeah,
I
but
wouldn't do that.
yeah.
If my son was an asshole, I'd say he's an asshole.
Right. But this is the thing I think also why you are able to maintain these relationships with these sort of super successful tech
Hmm.
in many cases like macho, whatever, that whole thing
Hmm.
is because I think you come at it from a standpoint of initially a fan. You love tech.
Yeah,
You
I
love
do. I
business.
don't love them
No,
necessarily,
but
I'll
you
tell you that.
love the
Yeah,
product or
yeah.
whatever is
Mhm.
that thing. And so I think coming to it with such earnest in that in that way
Yeah,
lets them know you're not going to get at them just to be a
right,
dick. You're
right.
only going to do it if they're the dick.
Yep, exactly. I think
Yeah.
that's a much better way to be, and I want them, I'm a little bit like their conscience, and I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, really? I don't think that's what you said 20 years ago. I
Yeah.
don't like don't make up fake narratives about your life, and I think I
Yeah.
do spend a lot of time
Ugh.
talking to them
Yeah.
about that, which I
Yes.
think is important.
It's
So,
so absurd because the more exciting thing is the truth that gets you to
yeah.
where you are,
Yes,
not the
100%.
bullshit
Yeah.
story.
Yep.
Kara Swisher, I'm so glad we got to
Thank
talk. When you
you.
finally finish the
Are you
memoir,
still in that
you
house? Are you still in
I
that
so I live
house?
next door to that house in our own house that we
Uh-huh.
merged into that
Uh-huh.
house.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I'm in Long Island. I'm
Yeah.
Strong Island still. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So
I
you're near it. I'm gonna
know.
come out there, and I wanna go into it.
Come,
It's
please.
in my book.
Yeah.
It's in my memoir, what happened, and it talks about that house. So I wanna come and see it. I have not been there since we left when my
Yeah.
dad died. So
Well, if you come over, I will have chocolate Twizzlers for you.
oh, all right. Okay.
And
All
then
right.
you will admit that they're better.
Okay.
And, then we'll be in a good spot, you and
All
me.
right. Good. Okay.
You were really terrific.
I
And oh, now my dogs just showed up. It's
okay.
bedtime, and they're, telling me I have four small rescue animals.
Oh my god, that's a
Yeah,
lot. I
you have
have
four
some
kids. I
dogs
have two
too.
kids and four
I
dogs.
have
But
dogs. I have
yeah,
cats,
I love my animals.
Yeah.
But you were really terrific.
Thank
And
you so
again,
much.
I'm sure that everyone listens to you. But if there's two people that hear this that don't, they will.
Okay. Okay.
Because you're that good. And
Okay.
it's just
Yes, I am.
you
And
are.
you should say that about yourself when you make something beautiful.
I'm working on it. Thank
All
you.
right.
I'm working
Yeah.
on it. But thank you so much for doing my show. Go
All
get a
right.
good
No
night's sleep.
problem. All right.
Okay.
Thanks. All
Bye.
right.
Follow
Bye.
Kara Swisher everywhere. Check out check out Pivot, and
Thank
yeah.
you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.